So happy to see so many people here to what I believe is going to be a wonderful presentation this evening, one that has been filled with a lot of heart and soul from both staff and officials and also our consulting company. I'm Jen Callahan. I am the town manager here in Oxford. Like I said, I'm so really delighted to see so many people. I was even more delighted on the way in to see that the building behind us, the old school annex, has been basically taken off its foundation, and I think that just opens up worlds of visualization and possibilities. So tonight, everyone knows that we're here to have a community forum that is about a feasibility study for our community center. Tonight, I just want to touch on the agenda. We have a number of things that we're going to get through, and then we're going to have some active participation and input from all of you, which is going to be very important for us to help shape which direction we go in the future. So first part of the agenda is going to be talking a little bit about the meeting purpose tonight and why we're here. The second will be about the community center's history and its current programming. We're also going to talk about meeting the team, both locally and also with our wonderful consulting firm. We're going to talk about the issues related to the existing community center, issues related to space and how it gets used and what doesn't get used. We're also going to talk about the vision for the future that has been formulated in its beginning phases by our consultants, along with many, many voices that have helped prepare where we think what could be a possibility here. And then we're going to talk about getting the input from the public and talking about next steps. So that's the agenda. I do want to say that if we start at the beginning to talk about the meeting purpose, why did the town engage in a feasibility study? As a town manager, I can tell you why. Because during 2017, we formulated a master plan. And the master planning process looked at a lot of things that were important to the citizens. There were over 2,000 residents that had been surveyed. Back then, we used the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission to help us with that. But community facilities that would enhance the quality of Oxford residents' life was one of the top objectives of our master plan that was eventually drafted and accepted by a number of boards. Another major objective is to protect the character of historic structures throughout town. Another objective of the master plan was to provide for efficient use of existing municipal facilities in a cost-effective manner. We also had a lot of interest, and it was labeled as a major objective, was to expand recreational programming throughout the town and to also build community pride. So those were the foundations of why we started to think about actually commissioning a feasibility study. Now, the community center itself was listed as one of the major buildings that provide services to this town that needed to be evaluated and assessed, and also needed to be put in a perspective of what are we going to do with this building going forward. So in 2020, the community center was included and has been a management priority since I've come in to my position. In 2020, we had requested as part of our capital plan that we would fund $50,000 for a feasibility study. It was overwhelmingly supported at town meeting, and then we put out requests for proposals, and eventually we were engaged with a consulting firm who I'll be introducing in a little bit. We also engaged in this feasibility study because we wanted to be able to provide those kinds of enhanced program offerings and activities that we had noticed that were requiring increased budgetary and grant funding support. And one of the ways that you can actually improve programming and also improve your chances for grant seeking is to also have facilities that match the ability and the need for the community to provide those kinds of programs. So it's important that everyone understands we're in this building here, and it was constructed in 1948. And it was a beautiful building that was built by previous generations to serve the educational needs of this community. Obviously, it has ceased being a school, and that happened in 2004. And actually, the same year that it ceased operating as a school, the first community center events were held here. As much as when we actually tour the facilities here, you can often see that there are areas that are used in a fairly decent shape, particularly the top floor, where the town made a huge investment, over $1 million, to make improvements on the floor that is now occupied by the school administration. And that was a major investment that this town did. It was considered the first step in what was obviously going to be consideration for what else were we going to do with this building. The master plan, had concluded that we had serious maintenance issues, and I think our DPW director, who's also in charge of all facilities, is going to talk a little bit about that. It has meant that we have done a lot of investment in trying to keep up very old equipment. Everyone should be reminded that when we build a public facility, in the old days, they used to say that it should last for at least 50 years. And that is a timetable, obviously, that we have surpassed here. The town was very fortunate. After putting out requests for proposals, our Director for Planning and Economic Development helped me with this. We had gotten 6 separate proposals, and Berry Dunn and Mogul Architects were actually retained in July 2021 to create a renovation plan for the existing community center. I would like to say that that was the very beginning of what we thought to be an exciting future prospect. I would like to ask Shelley Lambert, who many of you know, is our Community Center Director. It's always been with great pride that I get to introduce her, because I got to appoint her to this position, and she has been doing phenomenal work, actually increasing all of our programs here at the Community Center. She's going to talk a little bit about the current community programs. And Shelley, if you'll come forward. I know everyone would like to hear from you, especially ones who don't necessarily use all of these programs.
Thank you. We do offer so many programs here at the Community Center for all ages, from preschool up to those folks in their 90s. We have a good number of folks in their 90s who come to our fitness classes and other activities. So I wanted you to know what we do, just in case you're not familiar. Year-round, we offer our fitness program with 21 group fitness classes per week and a cardio weight room with equipment where people can go in and work out on their own. We offer social, craft, activity, and development programs for younger students, including movement, painting, cooking, basic cooking, because we don't have a kitchen, but anything that we could do with, non-food, non-cooking things, cold salads, things like that for littles. We have our new preschool age craft, story, and movement program that is being implemented by our newest hire, Caitlin, who is full of energy and enthusiasm for working with our youngest visitors. We offer drop-in gym time in this gym for basketball and pickleball. We offer paint nights for adults and children, and I know somebody in this room who has attended every one of them and brings his children with him. And we offer gymnasium rentals here and beach house rentals over at Carbuncle. Additionally, we do some seasonal things. In this gym, we have our summer and winter recreational basketball program. Summer, it happens outside on the courts unless it's raining or it has rained too much. We offer our softball and baseball clinics with Coach Keith, who has been here almost as long as the building itself. I can say that with love. He also runs flag football and floor hockey for not just children, but families. We've had several families who come together, dads and sons, early on a Sunday morning to play floor hockey with Coach Keith. Stacy runs our Start Smart basketball and soccer for children who are 3 to 5 years old. We offer something for everybody. School break activities, we have activities in the gym, we have activities that are artistic, we have activities that are spy game related, we have all different kinds of things because we don't want to appeal to just one type of person. We want everybody to feel like they are welcome and included here. And I think that's something that we're pretty good at. On the Common, shortly after I was hired into this position, the town manager said, we need more visibility on the Common, we need more activity on the Common. The master plan indicated that people want more community events, so that's what we have started. We had our first teddy bear picnic 3 years ago, and Movies on Main, what started out as one movie or two by the town manager is now a weekly series in the summer, as well as I took over concerts on the bandstand when our bandstand committee disbanded. A lot of bands there. And we are also on our third Scarecrows on the Common this year. And last year, or actually earlier this year, with a group of volunteers, we hosted our very first winter festival with a polar plunge at Carbuncle, and that was rather amazing. It was a cold day, but we had fun, and our volunteers were amazing. So if you decide that you want to work on that, I see a couple of you in here, you know where to find me. We also run activities at Carbuncle Park, and for that we're responsible for the summer operation of the beachfront and splash pad, swim lessons, the children's summer program, and also, as already mentioned, rentals of the beach house, splash pad, and space there. I like to tell people that the best people in Oxford come to the community center, and it's 100% true. And in addition to all those things that we are responsible for, we also are home to the Oxford Ecumenical Food Shelf. So the food pantry is downstairs, and clients come every Thursday. They are open to come to receive food from that great group of volunteers, and that is a wonderful community amenity that we also house here. I believe that is all I have. Jen will introduce you to the rest of us who've been working.
Thank you, Shelley. As usual, has a lot of energy behind all of the programs she discusses with us. Meeting the team locally. Initially, when we set out to do this feasibility study, we thought it was important to include, obviously, a number of people who are not only engaged in our part of the community center, but a wider swath, because we started to, think about this is such a large building. If it were to be renovated, are there other areas that may be interested from an intergenerational perspective, from a veteran services perspective, from a food pantries perspective, all of those things that are sort of on the periphery. So the local team obviously included myself and also Shelley Lambert, but we also included Jared Duval, who is our Director of Public Works, Mike Lupus, who is our Director of Facilities, Joel Maisley, who is our Recreation Commission Chair, Tony Sousa, who is our Director for Planning and Economic Development, and Laura Wilson, who's our Director of the Oxford Senior Center, and also Michael Daniels, who was the Board of Selectmen designee and former chairman of the board. So it gives you an idea. We have new selectmen, a new season of looking at these kinds of things, but the study itself took a lot of deliberative thinking, and we required help. This is not something you embark on just with local people who are all very exceptional in leading our departments. But what was more important is how do we take these disparate ideas about what we think or hope or what our existing programs are, how can we put that together and provide us with some kind of direction. So it is with great pleasure that I get to introduce Elsa Fisher, who is the project manager from Berry and Dunn, who's been working very closely with our team over this many, many months. And I'm going to invite her to the podium, and she'll take us a little bit on the journey of introducing her team. Thank you, Elsa.
Thanks, everybody. First, I just want to say that Barry Dunn is very appreciative to have the honor to work on this project with the Town of Oxford staff. So as the town manager said, my name is Elsa Fisher, and I've been the project manager for the last year on this project. And I'm joined also from Barry Dunn by Lisa Paradis over here. And then there's a couple of players on the slides that aren't with us tonight who have done some work behind the scenes. There's a lot of people involved in kind of making this all happen. And so Barry Dunn is a consulting firm, and we're based in Portland, Maine. All of the park, recreation, and libraries consultants, and there's 23 of us now, we're all remote employees across the country. So I'm outside of Chicago. Lisa was born and raised in Boston, but she's recently moved to St. Petersburg, Florida. So she evacuated yesterday and came back to Boston so she could be at the meeting tonight. But then, so along with Barry Dunn, there's an architecture firm, Mogul Architecture, and Dan Barton is the architect who's worked on all the drawings that you'll see tonight. So don't want to spend any more time on us. We'll keep talking about the process. So I think I'm going to turn it over to Jared, who's going to talk about current issues with the building.
Thank you, Elsa. I'm happy to be here tonight. My name is Jared Duval. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the Director of Public Works, and as Manager Callahan had mentioned, the oversight and maintenance, capital improvements, all falls under DPW's purview through our Facilities Maintenance Division. Mike Lupus, our Director of Facilities Maintenance, could not be here tonight, so I'm happy to fill in for him and just give a brief overview of some of the deficiencies of this building. I think it's pretty obvious, while Shelley spoke of this building, I think we all look at it very fondly, and it certainly has a lot of sentimental value to many folks in the town here that have either attended school here when it was a school or now participate in the programs, but it's pretty obvious what a lot of the deficiencies are in this building. You don't have to look far, just walking up, and you can see outside of the top floor that the school administration now calls home, a lot of the windows, exterior windows, just looking at the building envelope in general, but really the windows are in dire need of replacement. I can tell you from personal experience, during my first tenure here with Oxford, I moved into a transition to a role as Assistant Director of Public Works and Facilities Maintenance, that within the first week, I was calling this building home for all the wrong reasons. Within the first week, I think we had a pipe let go in the basement floor, 9 o'clock call coming in here with shop vacs and a whole crew of DPW personnel to suck up all the water. So there are issues beyond the routine maintenance that we do constantly here in kind of fires that we put out metaphorically, but also literally as well, electrical fires that have occurred here. But despite that, the best efforts of our facilities maintenance crew, there are major building system issues here that warrant some form of capital investment and overhaul. So whether that was, and I know the project team here will talk a little bit more about the alternatives analysis and weighing the feasibility of replacing this building entirely or rehabilitating it. Major dollars needed to bring this building up to current codes. The bathrooms are not ADA compliant. Much of the building beyond the elevator has similar deficiencies in that regard. So a lot of issues. You can see water staining in the roofs here. Let's be honest, it smells like an old building too, just walking in here. So we hope to rectify those issues and not only bring this back to its former glory, this building, but actually enhance it well beyond that, what the original intent and use of this building was with the proposed plan that you'll see shortly here. So thank you.
I just wanted to make sure that we were touching on some of those issues with current space. I didn't know, Shelley, you were all set with talking about the many areas of the building that are unusable. It's up to you. If you feel okay? I feel fine. Okay, all right. Very good. All right, so this brings us to the next steps of why we started to think about the vision for the future of this building. I think one of the things that the entire collective number of people that we spoke to, including people from our Master Plan Implementation Committee, people from our Recreation Committee, people who work here, people who use the building, there were three main themes. One was to keep the community center on its current site. We recognize the value. It's very cost staggering to build an entire new building, particularly if you have some fairly decent bones on a current building. But renovating and reconstructing the building was considered to be much more preferable than the alternative, and building someplace else and no longer using this. Particularly since we've renovated and put in over $1 million in the top floor, that was prior to my coming, it only makes sense to look at the rest of the building. We then also all agreed that after speaking with our advocates for our seniors and our senior center director, that there was a desire to think about conceptualizing an intergenerational community center, much more so than it is currently. And then the third thing was we wanted to have some flexibility to be able to provide for programming. I mean, after 74 years, this is what you get, folks, right? So the building wasn't set up for a community center. So if we're going to continue to have value in this building and to have value for the future of programming that the staff will be able to offer, then we also need to have the building have that flexibility to build capacity for future programming. So those were the three things. I'm going to ask Elsa to come back up to talk about keeping those three things in mind, where the feasibility process has continued.
Thanks, Jen. So when we started the planning process, the first thing that we did was look at the results from the master plan that was completed, the 2017 to 2027 master plan. And there was a great deal of public input gathered for that plan. I believe there was over like 2,000 surveys collected from residents, so that's where we started. And Jen's already talked quite a bit about that. The next thing that we did was meet with town leadership to learn more about the community and more about the current issues with the building, which Jared has just gone through quite a bit. The next thing, the town provided Dan with the original plans from the 1948 construction so that Dan could understand, what was built back then, and then there's been some additions since then, so we took a look at those. And then we started some really in-depth meetings with department staff. And when we met with department staff, we talked about programs that were being offered now, but then also, what else would you like to do in new spaces? What could you do if you had renovated spaces? So we spent a lot of time with Shelley and a lot of time with Laura, the senior center director, to learn more about their vision for recreation programming. And then we also met with recreation commission members. So on this next slide, which you're not going to be able to read, but I just want to explain what it is. The architect, when we would meet, the architect would find out from Shelley and from Laura, okay, what's the space? What do you want to do with it? How many people do you want in this space? And then what sort of other things are needed in terms of storage or sinks or, things like that. So after we went through this exhaustive planning process, then Dan takes this information and turns it into what you're going to see tonight. So now I'm going to let Dan talk about the building plans.
Thanks, Elsa. For all of you who don't know me, I'm Dan Barton from Mogul DeStefano Architects. We're located in Harvard, Mass., and it's been a great honor to work on this project. As everyone's been talking about the deficiencies in the building, I get the wonderful job of showing the pretty pictures of how we're going to fix it all. And that's a positive thing. But I also want to go back a little bit to the slide that was just up about programming, and Lisa, you don't need to go back to it. But there were some conclusions that were reached. As we were going through the programming for this building, not only did we have to understand all that takes place here today, we also had to look at and forecast all the opportunity that there is for the future. And the conclusion was pretty dramatic that the building as it is today for what we're planning for the future, the building itself is not sufficient in terms of square footage. We have to actually almost double the square footage in order to get all the programs to make it an intergenerational center. And I'm going to pick up on something that Shelley said about being welcoming and included. That's what we would want for a community center. We want there to be life and activity and vibrancy. So we want the building design to be able to support that and not just have spaces that were intended for another purpose being used for something today or for into the future. We want to actually think about how we can make them as vibrant, as exciting as possible. So knowing that we had an existing building here as a resource, and as Jen's pointed out, a resource that's already had some investment, $1 million is not a small amount of money invested into the building, it made sense to think about a renovation scheme and utilizing property that already had other recreational activities and already had building components that the core might still be reusable. It was pretty easy to determine early on that the gym that we're sitting in today, in terms of gyms, is outdated and isn't going to work effectively for the types of activity that need to take place here. While it's a large room, it's a room that's not supported by systems that give it a lot of flexibility, that provide good air, that provide, the best quality of environment for some of the activities that want to take place here. It's also undersized when we think about wanting to have 2 gyms, pickleball courts, badminton, potentially a walking track, rock climbing. There's all sorts of activities that this room is not going to support. So the diagram that's here, and I'm going to apologize that the light here is very, very dim, but maybe you could see it. There's a blue portion on our site plan, which is the existing wing beyond this wall. Remember, the top floor is already occupied and was renovated and is being used by your school district. The bottom floors are sorely in need of a gut rehab. But we determined that this building on the other side of the wall still has usefulness and untapped potential, that it was worthy of renovation. The side that we're in today, sitting here in this room, gets replaced with a new wing that we'll look at in a little bit more detail in just a moment. What you also see on this, and I know it's very difficult to see things in any detail on a slide. That's why we've set up the station so people can pick up a plan, look at it closely, and really understand the details. So I'm not going to walk through every detail in this presentation. Next slide, please, Lisa. So again, to repeat what I said before, the portion on the left here is the existing wing on the other side of this wall with a new wing added. You can see rather dramatically how much square footage we've added to the building. It's all being driven by the program for recreation in the gym, which is going to sit up above the floor you're looking at today, but we're also thinking about community in a larger sense. So the idea that there is a community lounge on 2 floors, it's a place for the community to gather. Kids might be doing homework there, parents might be meeting and having conversations. It becomes almost the community living room, off of which are all these other wonderful activities and features in the building. Also, to try to create an intergenerational center, we've moved the senior center into the building. We've created spaces for them to replace the program areas that they have today, and at the same time made sure that they're right at the hub of the building with an immediate connection to activity space, to a huge commercial kitchen, to an outdoor patio where there could be gardening and outdoor activities, and full accessibility around the building, so that with elevators and stairs and corridors that you can see down, they're ideally located to allow them to be really integrated into all of the functions, and yet at the same time have spaces that belong to them for some of their own internal programming. So the first floor of the building includes senior center, some offices. There's certainly plenty of restrooms, meeting spaces, flexible meeting spaces, and all of the fitness activities like weights, cardio, et cetera, happen on this floor. And then as you go upstairs, and again, you'll be able to look at this in more detail. Oh, that's okay. There you go. As you go upstairs, there is a wonderful gym with a elevated track all around it, an area for rock climbing. There's some locker space, more bathrooms, again, the second level of that community living room or lounge, and then off on the wing of the existing building, we still have the babysitting, we still have some studio space, we still have more offices, staff areas, et cetera. And then the pretty pictures of what it can look like on the exterior. Again, your existing building on the left, but think about all the glass blocks being replaced with large windows, new fenestration on the building, and then beyond that, a wonderful new glass entrance and that two-story living room space that we spoke about in the wing beyond. And as you continue to flip through, you can see that a little bit more up. Yep. This is the back side. Again, you're now away from Main Street, around where the parking area is, and one more, you can zoom into that glass wall. Again, meant to be inclusive, welcoming, showing people that there's activity and life in this building. It's a place that you want to come into and you want to continue to be a part of. The design itself really respects the 1948 building that was here originally, and at the same time it brings something new and fresh into the community. And imagine as you're coming off of Main Street, as you're looking back, instead of a closed-in building, it's now something that's very open and very welcoming with better, more organized parking all around it. Next slide, please. On the rear side of the building, so off of the Maple Street right now where there's the large walkway that's outside, that becomes a new entrance alley where it brings you to the intersection between the old and the new building. That's where that wonderful community flexible space for functions, dining, et cetera, opens up onto an outside patio and courtyard, and that patio and courtyard then continues and becomes part of the senior center underneath that beautiful big tree that's out there. Next slide, please. Yeah. And going inside the building, that is the inside of that large community space, dining space, looking out towards the patio and the tree, and you see the old building in the distance. Yep. Hey, doesn't matter what order we're in. Wonderful new gym. Yeah. This is your second floor, that community lounge space looking into the new gym. And the gym we've made sure is not just a closed doorway. You can actually be outside in that space and be watching activity that's happening inside the gym. There's more than enough space for bleachers if there's competition or a gathering in there that wants seating. It's sized for 2 high school regulation basketball courts, but also overlaid on it, you could do 3 or 4 pickleball courts. You could have badminton. Again, there's the track that's elevated up above. So it's really a modern, wonderful, flexible gym. Next slide, please, Lisa. So you see the gym itself, and you see that rock climbing wall in the back of it, which is a 2-story space. Next, no, I think we missed one. I think we missed the entrance downstairs. That may have been the first one. That's okay. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, no, go one more, please. Yeah. There you go. Okay. So first floor space when you first come into the building. There's now a place for a greeter. There's an opportunity to see people in the community, and again, from that hub, move all around the building. So I want to get us into a point where we can actually hear from you and come to each of the stations. I just want to say a couple of things that I think are really important. It's wonderful to be the person behind all the images that are the eye candy and that are exciting, but I want to stress that this is not a finished product. All this is our giving graphics to support the vision that the town has. And the vision that's already been spoken about by the survey results that Elsa mentioned. So just because it's pretty pictures and it looks like it's a finished design, please don't assume that that's the case. It's really just the beginning. There's a lot of work and a lot of steps to go through to actually design a building, and we really want the input so that when it eventually moves to something that is fully designed and built, that it's had the benefit of all of the voices, all of the input, all of the different points of view that really make for a vibrant community center. So it's a pleasure to be a part of this initial planning phase, but it is an initial planning phase. It is still, as Jen mentioned, a feasibility study. We're just showing what's possible. So I look forward to talking to all of you as we move around the room.
Thank you so much. And as he has just alluded to, we are going to have you visit these stations, but I think it's important that you understand that each one of these stations has, I think, a very particular meaning. And the first one was to give us feedback on, what aspects of this visioning so far do you like? What parts of it do you think hit upon the kinds of goals and objectives that we had laid out? What other kinds of programs do you see possibly happening here? Some of us had talked about just because some other community center has a swimming pool, obviously we don't have that included here. It might be something that's important to somebody. So what other kinds of programs can you see? And what did we really miss? What are we missing in this components? And then obviously after that, I think we are hoping to be able to include that not only for the next steps, but also for the final study that gets put out. And I can come back and let you know what the next steps will be, or I can do it right now. That's all right. So when we do depart from here today, we're looking to say that over the next month, we're going to continue to encourage and accept community input. We're going to have this presentation publicized, not only on our social media, but our websites. We're going to make our staff available as much as possible that have been involved with it to be able to explain aspects of it, but people will be able to go on our town hall websites. We're going to go to the senior center and do presentations, and also to make sure that we get both electronic feedback and also in-person feedback. We're also going to begin that process of continuing to pursue different types of opportunities for funding and advanced design to determine, through a public process, what would be the next steps as we go forward. And then also based upon that, we're hoping to be able to put that input along with more research about how we can make all of this kind of come together to help determine what the future direction will be for us to do. So with that, I want to say thank you to our really great Berry Dunn consultants, and I want to say the architect, I think, brought real life to things that become a floor plan, which is, I think Laura Wilson and Shelley will tell you, is very difficult to conceptualize. But they did a great job. It's been a pleasure working with them, and at this point in time, I don't know if we should first break up and take a look at that, and if there are any questions that people have, we can answer those. I don't know which way you'd like to do it. Okay, why don't we try so you can actually go see the actual floor plans up close and the visualizations, maybe contribute to that, and then we'll come back and any questions people still have that can't be answered at the tables, we'll try to answer them. That sound good? Okay, thank you.